Hey everyone, it's really wonderful to be here. Once again, my name is Marek Olszewski. I'm one of the co-founders of Celo. And even though I'm from Poland, a little fun fact about myself, I was born in Singapore many, many years ago. And so it's a real pleasure to be back here in Singapore and, in such a historic event space, no less. So real pleasure. Um, Earlier in the year, I challenged myself to make slides with emojis as graphics. So you're going to see a lot of emojis, just a word of warning. If you like the format, let me know afterwards. You can find me on Twitter at Marek_. And I wanted to start with a interactive question. I want all of you to kind of think back to maybe the last time that you used crypto to pay for something. And really, ask yourself honestly, like, are you using crypto on a regular basis to pay for things? Raise your hand. Anybody? Cool. Okay, I see 5 hands in the air. Okay, 6. A little late bloomer over there. 6 people in a Stablecoin Summit are actually using stablecoins to pay for things. That needs to change next year when we're all here again. I want to see more hands in the air. That makes me sad. That makes Vitalik sad, shown here in the form of a cat emoji. Because after all, there is no emoji yet for Vitalik, yet. And so you might be wondering, or at least I've been, asking myself, why is this the case? People have been talking about using crypto rails for payments literally since the original Bitcoin white paper, and it still seemingly isn't happening. In the past, people used to say, well, it's because we don't have scalable blockchains. You can't do payments. You need a lot of transactions per second. You need, Visa scale throughput. Well, we have Visa scale throughput nowadays in a whole manner of blockchains. And when you look at the, Ethereum scalability roadmap and, what's happening with rollups today, not only do we have really scalable chains, but we also have, high levels of decentralization as well. So it can't be that the blockchains aren't scalable enough. So why else could it be? Well, in the past, it used to be that we didn't have stable coins, and everyone's like, well, we're not going to pay with Bitcoin, we're not going to pay with ETH, it doesn't really make sense. And that's true, but we have stable coins now. People may not be using them for payments, but we have them now. Folks also used to say that, well, public key derived addresses are just way too intimidating. People are going to get one of the digits all messed up. No one's going to use those for payments. Well, we have identity systems now, right? We have ENS. On Celo, we have something called Social Connect, lets you send payments to phone numbers. We've solved this issue. It can't be that we don't have identity systems. Next up, people used to say, well, the wallets are too complicated. There's no way that a normie would be able to, pay for things with a hardware wallet. Well, we have these really easy to use mobile wallets these days. I work for a company called Valora part-time, which is a really easy to use mobile wallet. You can send payments to phone numbers. You can pay for gas with tokens, with stable coins. We have easy enough to use wallets, so it can't be that. And this might be actually also a good opportunity just to share some exciting news that came out earlier this week. We also have mobile wallets that are now becoming ubiquitous. So earlier in this week, Opera announced MiniPay, which is a really easy to use mobile wallet embedded directly into Opera Mini, which is a browser that has 100 million users worldwide. And so we have now, as of this week, widely distributed, really easy to use mobile wallets. And so it can't be that wallets are what is preventing us from using crypto for payments. So why is it then? Anybody here have any ideas? Anybody want to scream anything out? It's too early in the morning for that. Well, I think it is because it is just way too hard to cash in and out. I think this is a real major friction point that a lot of users face. And if you want to send a value to someone, in the form of payment, you want them to be able to have utility of that value. And for that, we need really easy cash in and out. And it's a real shame because this is the future that we want, right? We want a future where we have tons of people rushing into the house of Web3, using Web3 for everything it has to offer. But instead, this is the current reality. Those 6 people that raise their hand, they're having all the fun. They're doing the payments. But it's a little sad in there, right? It looks a little bit like a Bed Bath & Beyond that's about to go bankrupt, right? We need to get more people in there. And I would argue that, cashing in and out with exchanges, we have great exchanges, you might be saying. I would say that that's not enough. It's not easy enough for normies. Especially when you add in the fact that some of these need, you need to use P2P cash-in methods. It's just way too much friction. And you may have seen now there's some really amazing companies like MoonPay, like Ramp, that are creating these widget-based cash-in experiences that you can embed into a wallet. I would argue that even though they are a huge, huge step in the right direction, they are still not enough. They are still going to create too much friction for your everyday user. And so we need to do better than that. So what do we need? Like, if we could wave a magic wand, what should we try to create? I would say, if I could wave a magic wand, I would like, a native on and off ramping experience built into all the wallets, all the crypto wallets that are out there, that's accessible with local payment rails in every country in the world, right? This is like a dream that we can probably all agree would be pretty amazing. We're not there yet, and so the question is, well, how do we get there, right? What do we have to do? And critically, if we were to get there, then we would live in a pretty exciting place, similar to how, a decade and a half ago, we lived in a world where you couldn't send a text message to anyone in the world for free. And suddenly that changed overnight with WhatsApp and many other communication platforms. There will be a moment in time when sending a payment to someone anywhere in the world will become as easy as that. And when you have the ability to cash in and out in every country in the world globally, then we will live in a world where you can send money to anyone in the world knowing that they're going to be able to immediately use it, right? We're going to have that WhatsApp moment. It's going to be pretty amazing. So how do we get there, right? I think this is the most important question. And if you're a wallet provider today, then the answer is, well, let's integrate with as many on and off ramps as possible. And so at Valora, we've been doing this, right? We've been integrating with kind of the MoonPays, the ramps, all the other providers, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, tons and tons of these on and off ramp providers. And we're not the only ones, right? There's many wallets out there that are doing this, and they're all going ahead, integrating with all of these different on and off ramps. They're doing a lot of work. And many of them are interested in doing this not just in one market, but in every market, right? Everyone wants to get to global coverage. And so everyone is now facing this somewhat daunting task of integrating potentially hundreds of these on and off ramp companies. And they all have their own bespoke APIs. They all have their own experiences. Typically, they're WebView, kind of widget-based. And I don't know about you, but when I'm talking to my engineers, and I tell them, hey, let's integrate 100 on and off ramps that all have their own APIs and will all need their own maintenance for years and years and years, they look back at me like this, right? They're not that excited about this proposition. It is an engineering nightmare. So how do we solve this? Well, if you squint at this diagram, the answer might just be staring at you. There is this many-to-many kind of mess that looks a little bit like a pile of spaghetti in the middle of this, and we need to move away from that. We need to move away to something where it looks more like a hub and spoke model. So not Vitalik in the middle, but something called Fiat Connect. So Fiat Connect is a public good. It's an open API standard. And you can think of it as being the center in this hub and spoke model, allowing us to really dramatically simplify this integration nightmare that is before every wallet out there today. And one way to think about it is like Wallet Connect, right? Wallet Connect did this for connecting dApps with wallets. They created a unified standard. Everyone implements it. It's made the lives of engineers a lot easier. It's an API-based, a back-end API-based standard. And critically, once you've integrated it, say, as a wallet, then you can integrate new on and off ramps really easily, basically just by creating a configuration change in your application. And it's a back-end API standard, which means that wallets and apps can control the whole UX. So they can have the whole kind of front-end experience. Right now, one of the challenges with these widget-based systems is that you end up embedding a widget that looks and feels different, and typically the wallet can't optimize the flow and improve it. They don't have analytics to improve it. This all changes with Fiat Connect because it's a backend API standard, so the wallet is responsible for the front end, for the UX, and can make it better and better over time. And of course, since on and off ramping is a highly regulated space, Fiat Connect has full compliance support. And so the standard allows you, the wallet, to collect identity information, to do an ID check, and then to pass that information with the user's permission to the on and off ramp using this open API standard. And then the on and off ramp can then do all of their KYC and sanction screening obligations. But critically, the wallet can do the ID verification just once, and then they can send that information to each on and off ramp that the user chooses to use. And so it ends up requiring much less effort from the user itself, which is really, really nice. So if you're interested in hearing more, I would really encourage you to go to fiatconnect.org. Again, this is an open source project. Anyone can contribute to it. There's no company or protocol behind it, so definitely check it out. And that's it, right? I'm done. Just kidding. I'm not done because, and this is really shown nicely by this XKCD comic, one of the issues with creating a new standard is unless you can get people to actually adopt it, all you've really done is added a new API that everyone has to worry about. And so instead of having to integrate with 100 on and off ramp APIs, suddenly there's 101. And so I'm here today to change that. We need to create a shelling point around this API standard so that it truly can be something that makes all of our lives easier. And I would encourage each of you to also help with this mission. It doesn't have to be Fiat Connect. You could choose a different standard. But let's create a standard so that we can actually get to a world where people can send value to anyone in the world more easily. And luckily, if you were to choose Fiat Connect and get excited about it, and luckily, I believe that there is only one standard to date, and so it's probably an easy choice. Luckily, it is now live and being adopted by a lot of wallets, by a lot of on and off ramps, and that adoption is literally growing by the day. Earlier in the year, Valora, that wallet that I mentioned earlier, announced that they were live with Fiat Connect and a number of on and off ramp providers that operate in Nigeria, Kenya, and the Philippines. This was a really exciting moment for the standard. It was the first time that this became live and available in a product and accessible to end users. And since then, it's now available in 13 markets, so it's really exploded. Collectively, there are now over 2.2 billion people that are serviced by Fiat Connect in these 13 markets. We have markets like India and Brazil and the Philippines and Nigeria among this list, which is why we get to such a large population. It's really, really quite exciting. And this is what the world looks like today. If you were to color in all of those 13 different markets, it's getting there, right? Like, it's a lot better than the 3 that we launched with earlier in the year. And there's a lot of work being done to change the map to look more like this. There's a lot of on and off ramps that are actively currently integrating with the standard, and it won't be long before Fiat Connect will cover a geography that looks more like this. So it's really exciting. And I wanted to end with some user quotes because I think they can be pretty insightful, and it's a nice way to get a sense of whether or not you're on the right track. And so these are some user quotes of Valora users who were using Fiat Connect. And Philip from Ghana was really stoked that you could use Fiat Connect to cash out natively again in Valora directly to mobile money in Ghana. So that was a really nice experience for Philip. Rachel in Kenya was excited that she didn't have to use a P2P exchange anymore, right? These are pretty common throughout Africa. And she didn't have to use it. She could go directly from Valora into her bank account, cashing out, again, using Fiat Connect. And then Emmanuel, the third quote, really, I think, zeroed in on something pretty fundamental about cashing in and out. Because cashing in and out, it shouldn't be rocket science. It shouldn't be something that's complicated. It shouldn't have all the friction that it has today. It should really just be, as he said, very, very okay. And I think that's really profound. If we can make on and off ramping as easy as it really should be, then it just disappears into the background and it will just be very, very okay. We also got a quote from an engineer who was using it. This engineer did not look like that grumpy cat, and instead was super thrilled that when adding a new market, Ghana, to the wallet, all he had to do was update one line in a configuration file, and he was able to roll out a whole new market with just that one tiny change. And so that made him very, very happy. So just to finish, we're now living in a world where you can send money to anyone in 13 countries, knowing that it will be immediately available to use, that those people will be able to send that crypto on to other people that they might know, or be able to cash it out trivially through a native experience in Valora. Super exciting. Again, that's 2.2 billion people that are now covered. And I think more importantly than that, I think payments are a really great use case for stablecoins. But I think there's actually something even more exciting that comes from having these really amazing native integrated on and off ramps. And that's that it can bring experiences that rival centralized offerings to self-custodial wallets and applications. And so if you imagine that you are using a really easy to use on and off ramp that lets you cash in using local payment rails in your local market directly into a stablecoin in your self-custodied wallet, if you can pay for gas with that stablecoin after you cash in, as is possible on Celo and as is now becoming more and more possible using account abstraction and other networks, then suddenly you can cash into your wallet and then be off to the races. It kind of looks like you're cashing into Coinbase with fiat and then using a centralized offering, but actually you're cashing into a stable coin and custodying it with self-custody in your wallet, but the experience is the same. And I think that will make self-custody more accessible. I think that will make Web3 more accessible. I think that will help us get to that world where we have, that crowd rushing into the house of Web3. That's really exciting. And I think one really great example of this now in action is this Opera MiniPay product that I alluded to earlier. Again, this launched earlier in the week. And one of the things that's amazing about this offering, beyond the fact that it's being rolled out to 100 million plus people that are already using Opera Mini today. What's exciting about this is that they are focused, they are a wallet that is stablecoin only. So you can only custody stable coins. Actually, you can only custody right now CUSD by Mento Labs, one of the sponsors of this conference. And you can cash in using Fiat Connect into CUSD on these wallets. And then you can actually interact with dApps. You can send that CUSD to people in your contact list. And you can use it in a way that, again, rivals centralized offerings, but it's fully decentralized, fully self-custodial, and available today starting in Nigeria. So it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to coming back here next year and asking that same question and seeing if we get more hands in the air. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.